It is a huge win for Manitoba's Métis population and the end of 3 decades, believe it or not, of legal challenge. The country's highest court rules in favor of Métis land claims that stem back to the Red River Rebellion. Parliament promised more than 5,500 square kilometres to the Métis, but they did not get all of it. I should tell you, Winnipeg is part of that promised land. So, what does it mean? And how is it all going to work? Jason Madden is legal counsel for the Metis Nation of Manitoba. He joins me live from Ottawa. Jason, welcome to the program. I need to get your reaction to this Supreme Court ruling.
Well, this is a great day for the Manitoba Métis and for the entire Métis Nation. We're all very excited.
Because?
Well, it's a long time coming. From 1870, the promises made of the Manitoba Métis bringing Manitoba into Confederation. There was a deal made, and that deal wasn't honored. And now the Supreme Court of Canada has acknowledged that the Crown breached its honor to the Métis, and that sets the stage for future negotiations in order to reconcile and make sure that that promise that's embedded within our Constitution is actually fulfilled.
So some of that land we're talking about, just can you put it in layman's terms so that we understand, you know, for people across the country, what areas you're talking about?
Well, it's not a specific claim to identified lands, and it won't affect third-party lands that people already have possession of. What it's really about is it sets the stage for negotiations. It says there was a promise there, the promise wasn't fulfilled, and now you need to negotiate with the Manitoba Métis Federation in order to come to a modern-day lands claims agreement or some type of agreement that accommodates and reconciles with this people. And that's I think, the fundamental point that people need to recognize, is that this nation is built on those promises, whether they're made to Quebecers or whether they're made to the Manitoba Métis. And our Constitution is a living tree, and we have to fulfill those promises. So it's not about taking specific lands. It's about how do we create an agreement or a way forward between the Crown and the Manitoba Métis. We can't go back and rewrite history, but what we now have is a decision that we can begin negotiations to move forward based upon.
So what does modern-day reconciliation mean? Does it mean money?
I think that one of the key points that the Manitoba Métis Federation has made again and again is they want a modern-day land claim agreement between themselves and the Crown. And components of that maybe have monetary value, but I think it's also about the recognition of the Manitoba Métis and their self-government structures, for example, the Manitoba Métis Federation. One of the important points in the case is the Manitoba Métis Federation, which is the representative government of the Manitoba Métis, had been denied standing in the cases as it went up, and now they have acknowledged that they are the proper party to bring forward this claim, and negotiation needs to begin with them. So similar to how reconciliation has moved forward with the Inuit or with First Nation peoples through modern-day land claims, now we have a broken promise that requires or demands negotiations and reconciliation with the Métis. It's very exciting. This isn't, this is one of many of those broken promises to the Métis, and so I think it starts a new chapter for how Canada begins to finally deal with this unique people that were born in the Northwest and that we have a long history with. And now it's trying to find that proper space for the Manitoba Métis and the rest of the Métis Nation.
Now, the federal government argued this agreement was more than a century old. I mean, we're talking about 140 years that it should have been thrown out. So really, when you look at what their argument was, what kind of challenge are you facing in going forward? You know, is there an openness, a willingness, if you will, that you're sensing to move forward now that the Supreme Court has ruled?
We haven't had a reaction yet, but the federal government has done this before. Similar to the Calder case 40 years ago, the court made a pronouncement that there's Aboriginal title that continues to exist. In this case, they say there's an unfulfilled promise that continues to exist, and it requires negotiations to move forward. So one would hope that the federal government comes to the table. The Manitoba Métis Federation have been willing to come to that table for the past, since 1967, since they were created. So now we have a court, and the important part is the court has declared that there's a breach. If the federal government doesn't come forward and negotiate, the Métis have this decision in order to go back to the courts and say, well, how are you addressing this breach of the honor of the Crown? So it's an important decision, but I think all of the parties now, we have clarity from the Supreme Court of Canada. Now's the time to talk. Now's the time to negotiate agreements, and Canada knows how to do this. They just haven't with the Métis.
You say the Métis will be really excited about this. It's been a long time in coming, a difficult battle. How should Canadians, who are not Aboriginal Canadians, look at this ruling?
Well, I think Aboriginal Canadians as a whole should be extremely excited about this ruling for this reason. This is our history. This isn't just Métis history. This is our history as a country. In order to acquire half a continent, there was a deal made with the Métis, who were the majority in the Red River settlement. The settlement of the West couldn't happen because the Métis, with the Red River resistance, stopped it. And a deal was made. And those nation-building promises that underlie our country are important. And I think that the way that we teach our kids is a promise is made, you fulfill those promises. That's your integrity. That's where your honor lies. It's the same thing with Canada. It's been a long time coming, but now we have a clear statement of saying the integrity, our honor as a country, requires that negotiations and reconciliation occur with the Métis. So I think that Canadians should embrace this, and it's also rewriting history. Not rewriting history, it's telling the true history. It's telling a history that these people were not rebels, they were not traitors to this country. In fact, Riel and the Métis people wanted to become a part of Canada. They brought Manitoba into Confederation, and they brought it into Confederation based upon certain deals, and those deals need to be upheld.
Jason, I want to thank you for your time. Pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you.